Okay, so let's talk about how do we eat slower? How do we implement this skill? How do we practice it? Where do we even start? The first place that I would suggest that you start is actually just time yourself naturally eating the way that you do. So take a day where you don't even focus on eating slowly. You're just curious about how fast you actually eat. Now, for most people, majority of people, you're probably going to notice that you finish a meal in 5, 6, 7 minutes flat, like that, right? A huge meal. So take note of that. Figure out where you are, what's the starting point, and then from there, continue to time yourself for a couple different days and just try and increase that time you spend on that meal by maybe just 30 seconds to a minute. Remember, this is a skill that you're going to practice for a very long time, so take it day by day, inch up until you at least reach about 15 minutes to 20 minutes with each meal. Some little things that you can implement other than just timing yourself to kind of remind yourself to eat slowly is you can cut your food as you go. So instead of cutting it all up and then eating it, cut a piece, eat, cut the next piece, eat. The other thing you can do is put your fork down between every single bite. You could also take a sip of water between every single bite. Every single bite, you put your fork down and you engage in conversation until that conversation kind of hits a lull, right? Because I'm assuming that most of the time you're going to be eating with somebody else, right? Then you would have your next bite or your next bite of that food. Other things that you can do is you can focus on chewing your food more thoroughly. So instead of just kind of gobbling it up and swallowing it down, actually really try to chew your food as thoroughly as you possibly can. And one last thing that I want to mention is our environment, right? Our environment, we've learned earlier, can play a huge role in our success and how we eat and all of those good things. And the same thing has to do here. Notice how the people around you, the people that you spend most of your meals with, most of your time with, eat themselves. If you notice a lot of people eat very quickly, you're going to match that speed more than likely if you're not aware of it. Now, I'll give you a little story. So I never used to eat super fast. I used to be a little bit of a moderate to slow eater. I moved in, right, with my boyfriend, and what ended up happening is he's a fast eater. So he would eat all of his food really, really fast, and I'd be sitting there hanging out, making conversation, eating at my leisurely pace. He'd finish his food in 5 minutes, and I'd get the puppy dog eyes of, I want to eat some of your food, basically. Now, we're both only kids, right? We're only children. We're both only children. And we're a little selfish, so I don't really want to share my food. So in order for me not to have to go through that awkwardness of he's staring at my plate and wants some of my food, do I have to offer him some kind of a thing? I just start to match his pace. And lo and behold, a couple weeks, couple months of that, and I notice, right, clothes start to fit a little bit differently and not necessarily in the good way. So go ahead, take note of your environment, take note of the person that you probably eat around the most, see how they eat, right? And you try to lead by a good example, slow it down, you got this, find the tricks. If you got any other ones, share it in the Facebook group, and let's make sure that we're taking between 15 and 20 minutes before we complete a meal, and then we're moving on.